We are back and ready to go with round number 2 of Masters Tour Bucharest. I'm Raven, and joining me now for this round is Lorinda, the 5th caster we have here today.
It's like the
from
fourth
the UK.
musketeer, right?
Yeah, the full representatives are here now, all 5 of us. So it's going to be pretty cool. We had a pretty cool first round, some nice matches. But what are you thinking of Masters Tour Bucharest so far? What do you think of all the players?
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving being here. I always seem to say that, but I know that Romania has got one of the tightest knit communities in all of Hearthstone. Probably only the French would argue that.
And they'd argue anything.
Yeah, exactly, right. And as soon as it was announced, all of the Romanian sort of the players you don't hear much about, but there's a lot going on. They just all went to try and qualify as much as possible.
Right.
Like hundreds of qualifiers played between them, and 9 of them have made it here.
Yeah, no, it's pretty impressive, and I always like it when any region or country really steps up to the plate when there's like a home turf tournament on. But these are the 2 players we are going to be covering. It's going to be PapaJason versus TechnoGoose. Going to be playing it out in the main match for this round. And just bear in mind, if you're a little bit confused about player cams and such, they are ready for this because they are next to us in the studio. But when we're covering some other matches from the round, obviously these people are in a room with like another 200 players. So we can't have cams and stuff for everyone, but we are just covering the matches from all the way across the Swiss round by round. So pretty excited to see the rest of the day play out. We've got tons of Hearthstone coming up. But these 2 players, Lorinda, TechnoGoose is maybe one of the most well-known, unheard of players, I think, because TechnoGoose has been around for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and I don't know how good he used to be, but the word is now from the people who are playing these qualifiers and trying to get to these events that TechnoGoose is just somebody you don't want to play at all. He is playing super well. And PapaJason is in the running already to get to GM. He's one of the players who's doing very well. He's got his own stream and stuff going now. He is right towards the top of the tree. I can't remember the exact position of being the next GM.
He's in contention, right?
If he can put out, and there's not that many North American players represented here. There's quite a few. You wouldn't want to just take your chance, but he is at the head of that pack, and he's going to be hard to catch if he puts in any sort of half-decent result. Yeah,
and that's what this round's all about, I guess, for him at least, is just getting as far as possible to up in that prize money as much as possible. And just a reminder as well, the highest earners, this is the last tournament that these players can play in to qualify into Grandmaster Season 3. As you mentioned, PapaJason is close, so his performance here will be very, very important. We see the list now, and it's going to be the Shaman banned out for PapaJason and the Priest banned out for TechnoGoose. So a pretty expected outcome, I would say. Like, Saul and I cast the match in round 1, and the lineups are weird, but also the bans and the way it shook out was a little bit strange. But here we see a Priest and a Shaman ban. Everything's back to normal.
Normality. That's just like me and you casting together, right?
Yeah, that's just completely normal. Completely regular.
But yeah, I mean, I was talking at least yesterday, because most people don't talk when I'm in a room, because I do the talking. It's a shame for everybody, including me, about banning one of Shaman and Priest, not letting the other one win, but sort of not worrying overly about your lineup losing to the other one, and then playing the other 2 decks. And this is the sort of thing I wanted to see. And then, like you say, out of the traps, nothing like that has happened in any of the games we've seen so far. Yeah,
and this is going to be, I think, just much more of a, at least fairly standard outcome of just the way lineups will clash, I think, generally across this tournament. Obviously, as the rounds go on, we'll be able to flesh out some of the more information of, decks or lineups with good win rates. Has anything really stuck out? The most banned? We can look at all that as we get a little bit deeper in. Still early in the day, of course, as we're at round number 2, but these players are looking like they are getting very close to getting ready here, and I'm just excited for this one. I'm just enjoying, after casting Grandmasters for quite a while. Unfortunately, I couldn't make any of the other Masters tours. I like being back in almost old school format for us, of being back to massive Swiss, tons of players, some new, some old, and we get to see how they perform.
I mean, that's the thing I love the most in Hearthstone. I love to see, can the up-and-comers actually prove themselves, or do they just get wiped out by the established old guard, or the medium guard, as it kind of is now? There's not many of the old guard left these days. Talking of which, question for you.
Okay.
So all these not-so-famous Romanians in the field, and there is one very famous Romanian, born in Romania, played in the World Championships this year. Do you know who it is? Chat knows.
Go on, tell me.
No, I'm going to give Chat a few seconds to tell us who is the famous born in Romania player that played in the World Championships this year. Language hacker.
There you go. Not something that everyone would have gone
you said
to.
RDU, you don't get packs.
Yeah, there you go. I was waiting for that because I was just waiting for like how much people may or may not have been caught out by that, because obviously Language Hacker plays in the majority of the Americas region, living in Canada, but he is Romanian.
Yeah, he was born here, lived there till he was 5 apparently, and then moved to Canada. So that's why he's representing Canada, which makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, Language Hacker's just kind of hopped across all regions because he was casting with me in the Asia Pacific region for Grandmasters not too long ago as well. So a true world traveler there. So we'll get to see how he performs a little bit later on, as he's also in the run-in for the Americas Grandmasters. But here we go. PapaJason, game number 1, going to be on the Priest on the top. And TechnoGoose is going to be on this Paladin.
And it isn't the Priest we all know and hate.
Isn't the Paladin we all know and hate either.
That's also true.
It's just, this is already, me and Sol talked a lot about, it's very difficult to prepare for this tournament because the meta, you have the complications of a high player count Swiss, where there's always a few, curveballs here and there. And then you have like a pretty fresh meta. So it's just, what is the bring? We have PapaJason on the, I guess like Death Rattle / Control Priest, depending on what people are calling, what the cool kids call it nowadays, which is basically just tons of taunt minions that you res endlessly. And then we have TechnoGoose on the weird Paladin, as I call it. A Paladin deck I never understand.
Yeah, and this is a deck I know. I've got to confess, I've not played much of at all the Paladin. I have seen the Priest, obviously, plenty of times. And how much damage can this get in early? Looking with the snip-snap start, will be interesting to see when he chooses to use it.
It's such a tough one overall, because I feel like playing against this Priest deck is very strange, in that you know what you have to do, but I feel like it's very much down to the Priest whether you're allowed to do it or not. As you can see, that Priest does run some very, very late game cards like the Plague of Death and the Mass Rares, and now of course the Cloning Gallery. So there is a massive gap in which a lot of damage can be pushed early game. But the problem with the damage, at least minion-based damage, is that once Priest hits mid to late game, they just put a stop to it if they can get the Resurrects cooking, and they can actually just put these taunt walls up again and again and again. It becomes almost impossible to kill them, and then when Kartuk defenders are involved and they keep rezzing them, it's also impossible to like combo them down with spells because they heal every time the minion dies.
Yeah, I think we've seen the back of this Cloning Gallery nonsense, and then it's back.
Yeah.
And pretty powerful. I think the only thing that's stopping this from being a nonsense of a deck is there's just so much versatility now to beat it with. Like aggro decks can just get underneath if they're quick enough. But the amount of value in the game, I never thought we'd see Sylvanas again, I must admit.
Yeah, Sylvanas one of the new cards. And interesting because it isn't as powerful as I think people maybe either thought it would be based on historic events, but it's now just a very solid card. It's just a good card to put in your deck. It's going to get worked and it's going to make your opponent play a little bit weird, and especially in this matchup, anything to do with resurrecting minions, if you can steal a minion, well, there's one less for the res pool, so it actually will be important going forward.
And that was true of a lot of the cards Light Bomb picked up here, for instance. When it was first released, every single minion would kill itself. Had a bigger attack or equal to than its defense, but nowadays there's a lot of 2/6s and stuff that just Light Bomb just tickles them.
Yeah, Light Bomb's definitely, as Sol would say, like the 30th/31st card in the deck, depending, because it's okay, but just right now the way the game is played, it has medium to no impact in a lot of matchups. Especially when you look at if you play versus, obviously, like Holy Wrath Paladin, you're not really light bombing anything, and it ends up just being a card that's clogged in your hand.
I must consider.
So here at the moment, though, this is one of the issues where it's turn 5. This is the turn that the deck only ever really starts to do anything. And PapaJason, sorry.
I just been letting you say that.
It was always going to happen. Is facing down a good chunk of damage here. He gets the Sandtooth, Waterbearer, going to heal himself for 5, put himself a little bit safer, but it is just a 5/5. It does heal every turn, so it needs to be dealt with from TechnoGoose. But it's not a taunt, it's not going to affect the board in any way other than it's required to be traded into.
And it's one of the problems of playing so many 9-drops in a Hearthstone deck, is you don't want to burn your coin. Like, coin Light Bomb looked lovely, but then you're doing nothing the next turn, and probably nothing the turn after that. And you've got to find a solution that is going to hurt, and this is going to hurt a lot. TechnoGoose is going to get a lot of damage in. He will also have a decent idea of PapaJason's hand from that play because, like, what's going on? Well, he'll soon work out that he has got the heavy draw.
Let me
Obviously, PapaJason's plan is to clear up next turn and then sort of get some health and defense back with Ziliax the turn after that. Most likely on the curve he currently has, and pick up something to do would be helpful too.
Yeah, I guess at this point, Light Bomb's not the end of the world, actually. It does reduce the mech down quite a lot because it dies. The rest of the board dies off as well, so I think this might even just be a Light Bomb next turn.
Yeah, I think that's what he was planning when he just kept back the coin. Thought, okay, I need to pace my play, even if none of it is ideal, because otherwise it would just be a new board now, and he'd be in so much trouble.
It's going to be Light Bomb from down here from Papa. It's back over to TechnoGoose. Oh, really good pickup there. He could just already front load this Ziliax and probably go Wind Fury Divine Shield just to be able to do the most threatening thing possible.
Yeah. No,
I think that would be okay. He could also put Sylvanas on the board.
I'd just say,
well, I can probably steal what you want to steal. Maybe Sylvanas Redemption is worth considering. Because it's either PapaJason plays a minion, in which Sylvanas can either kill or steal it, or both. Well, kind of both. Or he kills Sylvanas with a Shadow of Death that we can see in his hand, and then Redemption brings it back, right? So he's going to end up in a good spot no matter what. So I actually wouldn't mind either play right now.
And so if in doubt, and the plays are fairly equal, spend all your mana, because you might be able to do the 6 plus a 3 or 6 plus a 2 later, but you're not going to be able to do a 7 plus a 2 for some time.
Yep, it's definitely the more awkward minion to get on, and now with the Wind Fury, and not only that, the extra damage here as well means that it's all on PapaJason to be able to deal with this. Tiamat does go down. This secret's going to get procced as well, and Avenge, one of the new cards as well with Doom in the Tomb. It's going to turn this little minion into a threat.
But again, this all goes back to turn 5, this entire plan of kill your stuff, take a beating, kill your stuff, start to heal it back up.
Right. This is where the game just gets hard when you're against Priest, or this Priest at least.
Yes.
Is that now suddenly all of their best cards start to kick in like time and time again, and it's almost an endless wave of minions, especially when we see now, not next turn but the turn after, if PapaJason gets into any real form of trouble, there's always just Plague of Death to say, actually I'm going to reset the board, and his refill is significantly stronger than TechnoGoose's refill right now.
Yeah, and again, the Sylvanas hasn't done her job if she's just getting blown up without doing something.
And even this is good now because getting the card in the pool for the N'Zoth means that there's even more healing going to come PapaJason's way if he can stabilize. And this is where TechnoGoose is going to fall over here with just like, when you play a hand a deck like this, the top decks get worse and worse and worse because you have to run enough early game to not die, which means that you might end up just top decking your 1-drops, 2-drops, and the deck doesn't run tons of card draw, which means you can be left in this state.
Yeah, and you say he's got to stabilize. I mean, he's taken all that beating, but because of the collateral healing and the general just getting in the way, he's still 23.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Well, saying that, how many secrets are there? Like 3
None
secrets
of your
or 2 secrets left?
None of your business.
Oh, there's more. Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, he drew sort of nothing.
Well, there was Avenge and Redemption.
This deck seems really, really weird with its results. I watched Boar play the Paladin deck for an evening, but it was 5 games, which he lost everyone in turn 4. And I watched Bunny Hopper play it the next day with an almost identical list, and he got to like rank 30 legend, and then Darek took him out.
Fair enough. We sent in the big guns.
Yeah, Darek sent in the big memes afterwards as well, I can tell you. So the final bit of negotiation here for PapaJason, all he needs to do is not mess up into these secrets, and he's home and dry.
Yeah, I can get rid of this board without too much hassle, which is doable. You'd much rather, I feel, that either the Cloning Gallery or the Mass Res in hand would have been a plague, because it means he could have just cleared this board once and for all.
Not too quickly.
Well, There weren't many better draws in the deck, put it that way. Given that we're sort of calling it as nearly over, you might as well draw Rag.
If we talk about one-off, just top deck wars, then Rag's one of the better ones right now. TechnoGoose definitely looking into a trade with Sylvanas going into the Ziliax, and although
Take your chance.
Yeah, it cleanly kills it, which means he's going to steal either the Kartu or the Tauren.
Here he goes.
I think he does, right?
Yeah, I definitely think so. But
the upside of killing the Kartu actually means he could steal Ziliax and then trade Ziliax into something.
Yeah. But do the numbers check out for that? I don't think so. Really check out,
yeah. Right? It's more like you do it because it's good. You can steal a rush minion versus not. But now you got the Kartu. That's actually pretty sick.
I think this is where TechnoGoose has come good in the last 18 months in that it obviously looks like he feels he belongs now. He takes his time, he doesn't get flustered, he just plays what he thinks is the best play. And that's a transition you see in up-and-coming players. They just suddenly click and the switch goes on and they go into this pro player mode. And he's been like this for some time now.
And now the question gets quite simple. Can PapaJason clear this board? If he can, there really isn't too much left that TechnoGoose can draw. There's a couple of key ones, but he needs to clear this off and try and get something done. We see another 2 Kartu defenders going to keep him high health. But there's Sir Finley off the sands. That's a new hero power for TechnoGoose.
Yeah, and this needs to be good, because if this isn't good, the whole deck is pointless. I know you have Zephyrus anyway, and
is a pretty
the
good card.
secrets work quite well, only having one-ofs, but...
Is Soul Tap good? 2 mana, draw an extra card every turn.
It is very good.
Oh, perfect. Christology, why not?
But it's my main concern with the deck in general is that Sir Finley is obviously a good card, but you're giving up a lot of consistency to put it in there.
That's true. TechnoGoose living in the weird world where if everything has Taunt, nothing has Taunt, kind of. Where he can just kill off whatever he wants, depending on how the numbers add up. He's just going to leave just 2 Kartuks on the board, one still with Reborn, and this Ragnaros is going to take a good swing at something. Can't resist it, this Priest deck.
I just looking, since I last commented on how little life it was losing, it's gained 3 more health. So it's 26.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's got more health than his opponent.
And then there's also 6 more Kartuks. Pretty good follow-up there with a convinced infiltrator for PapaJason, because if the Rag hits it, it dies and kills Rag. If it doesn't hit it, he just trades and kills it anyway a lot of the time. But most importantly for TechnoGoose, he ended the turn with something on the board, which is often the case with Mass Hysteria if you have one really big minion and a lot of small ones. Gives him the chance to not hit Rag, and he doesn't.
Bellrigger Sentry in this deck's kind of interesting. It's nowhere near as good as it was in its first... the first secret decks it was played in. A lot of the time it just does nothing.
It's just a slightly smaller Mysterious champion, right?
But the trouble is, if you already drawn the Mysterious Challenger, then...
Right, but like my point being is, in Hunter, would you put a additional slightly worse Subject 9 in your
Subject
deck?
7 or something? Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
you would, right? Because you just want to get these bad cards out of your deck and get them activated effectively for free. Whereas now, here comes the Zephyrus, but...
And he's correctly identified that TechnoGoose is behind on board.
He's going to lose.
PapaJason taking a 1-0 lead. And he's got a lot of fans out there. He's probably the most popular player that a lot of people won't know.
That's partially true. I think that for that game, though, it's something that's going to interest me, keeping an eye on the rest of the way the Swiss plays out, and the rest of these players who are bringing the Resurrect Priest, is that what happens consistently is my question, because there's enough players that have just brought straight up combo priest that are just saying this deck is insane, the power level is up here, so just bring combo priest. But if someone can find a way to make res priest just consistently survive and just push back, because the late game is almost unbeatable.
Yes.
For many decks, unless you have some kind of big combo from hand. Like Mali Druid, right? You can kill them, of course, but most decks just can't punch through that many taunts. It's like being able to play 3 to 4 N'Zoths every game, which is absolutely insane. But he does take a win with that Priest. It means he's got Paladin and Druid left, whereas TechnoGoose has Warrior, Shaman, Paladin left total after his Priest.
One of the problems with playing those combo decks you're talking about at the moment, which is what might make Priest okay, is they just fold up in the face of an aggressive deck. And at the moment, there's plenty of aggressive decks out there. Obviously, Shaman surprised everybody.
Yeah,
but there's plenty of other aggressive decks out there. The combo decks don't have the early game defense they used to have.
Yeah, I think there's some. It depends what you count as a combo deck, right? But overall, I think for me, the at least against this Priest, the aggro decks really have just a set window. If the game is not won by turn X, unless the Priest is like the worst draw in the world, there is a way to come back. And it's mainly all just down to Kartut Defender. And it's why so many decks now are trying Kartut Defenders with N'Zoth. Just because that sort of loop in itself, especially if you can duplicate N'Zoth, whether it's through Rogue Scheme or bouncing them with Brewmasters with the help of Emperor Thorison, of course. Like, that loop is insane because you should not never die, but you go deep into fatigue when every single trade that happens heals you for 3.
And because of the absence of those combo decks, you can force the game, so you can play double Penance, double Shadow Word Pain to make sure your opponent doesn't get established. Then they have to load up on turns 4 and 5, and then you blow it all up on turn 6, and then you're into the bit you just described with all the goodies.
Exactly. Let's get into game number 2, though. PapaJason versus TechnoGoose, and it is going to be Paladin on Paladin, and pretty much a mirror match if I'm looking at the deck list, right?
Yep, PapaJason is playing the same deck. We haven't got the deck side by side, we have got them, so instantly telling you the differences is going to take me a moment, but...
Yep, it's the same. It's the same build, more or less.
You can pick 30 of 34 cards for this deck anyway. And so that's going to be interesting for starters. Just looking at this Tyrion. Yeah, TechnoGoose's deck. It does not have it. Playing Octosari instead.
That's fair enough. I think the card draw is pretty important. So far, though, just the early mech's going to be clashing. The Zephyrus is a pretty big deal because in a lot of decks that Zephyrus is in, you always like save it for X, right? It always does, oh, you normally use Zephyrus for this. Whereas having Zephyrus early game really blows that open, because if you deem that Zephyrus can gain you enough of a tempo lead that you want to get it down early and your opponent does not have it in a mirror match, it's actually huge.
Yeah, PapaJason looks like he's just playing it a bit more aggressively overall. The build with the Leroy, he's throwing a lot more at it, I think.
Yeah, the magic carpet as well on the top there is just drawn.
And he always has sort of done it his way. He doesn't do anything particularly crazy. He just does normal things his own way.
Let me
Can't really do much against this Mekaru, though. And there's some good follow-up as well. TechnoGoose could even go for maybe Zephyrus next turn, and then Commander Risa into Auto Defense Matrix. Although, again, Auto Defense Matrix doesn't really work that well with Risa, but still, just for the want of the curve. Maybe it is just Risa this turn.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, what do you do next turn if you sort of do nothing or not much this turn?
Zephyrus is always there to have you back if you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Zephyrus will always give you an option.
And the secrets in this deck, apart from Avenge, are not what you want, really, in general, but obviously with Risa it helps.
Right.
I was watching Bunny Hopper talking the cards. He's trying to tune the deck, so he's looking at all the cards you might throw out, and basically all the secret-related cards are the cards he was telling people, you don't really need this one.
Yeah, I think, well, Risa makes all the secrets good. Just because of the sheer power of, well, if they were twice as good, they'd be twice as good. Who would have thought? But there are definitely some ones that are way more impactful. You know, you look at Redemption, you look at Avenge as the key ones.
Yeah, I mean, Auto Defense Matrix probably isn't twice as good.
Well, yeah, Auto Defense sucks, but...
So they're twice as good except when they're not?
Yes, that's exactly what I meant. And now this is just getting a little bit annoying. TechnoGoose can't really deal with this Reborn that well.
Right, an open deck list means he knows that he needs to be the defender in this game. He knows the lineup he's got for 6, 7, 8 is just fine right now, but this is going to go wrong soon, and he knows it because he can see the deck list.
He just could play Zephyrus into Shadow Word Pain to kill off the carpet. Seems completely fine.
It just seems like he needs to.
Yeah, I think it's just a good turn. Like I said, like especially when it's a mirror match. If you're TechnoGoose, I'm with you on that, mate. I thought it would have given you pain too.
I didn't even question it because it just seemed clear. But never mind, you can draw a card and kill a 2/1. That's just what you wanted, right?
It's not the worst backup because now we can play our defense matrix. So it's not the worst outcome of you being misled by Zephyrus, but it's just not what TechnoGoose wanted at all, right? He definitely wanted the Shadow Word Pain there, and now he has to deal with the outcome of, unfortunately, PapaJason having a 1-drop as well.
And you've also got to reset your brain because you played that knowing how the board was going to look, and now you've got to plan ahead completely differently because
he doesn't do 6 damage for a very long time here.
Zephyrus reminds me of those horror movies where you get granted 3 wishes, but you've got to be really careful or you end up like trapped in a window pane or something.
I've not seen that one myself.
That's what I wrote as an aspiring screenplay man.
2021, directed by Lorinda.
Scary. But yeah, these genies historically across horror genres just got that sort of thing. And Zephyr seems to do the same thing. It's like, yeah, be careful what you wish for. I think I know, but sometimes it's going to trip you up.
It's always just leeway in wording, isn't it, really?
Yeah. If you're the best card, why can't I have another Zephyrus?
There you go. There's always a rule. In the meantime, though, TechnoGoose does not have a carpet, which means these 1-drops suck. And he's just behind. He's got great turn 6, 7, 8. But PapaJason has turns like kind of 5, 6, 7 with the 5 drops and the Blessed of Kings working in between there. And also, his is just way more aggressive, so he can play a little bit, a little bit more aggressive, not even for the board, but even just maybe pushing face damage.
Yeah, if you can land a safe Tyrion, which you've got to tiptoe around with Sylvanas being a opponent's deck, because it's just one of the biggest swings in all of Hearthstone, especially in arena play, I guess.
It's Tyrion and Rag, right?
Yeah, you just don't want that swing. But if he can get to the point where Tyrion's down, that's just close to...
What did he do? What was a mistake?
I know, I was talking at the time.
I feel like I've missed something. I don't understand what the mistake was. Oh, I know what it was. Yeah, he played the secret while the secret keeper was still on the board. He should have traded first because his 3/2 took extra damage. There we go. I reconstructed
Good spot.
it.
Saved by Raven.
I know, it's a dark day, isn't it?
I'll live it down.
Funnily enough, TechnoGoose has a Consecrate opportunity now if he really wanted. Is that ever better than the Sylvanas? I guess he'll find out pretty quickly, basing on what these secrets can be.
And again, it's just mana considerations. I've said that about twice already, but Consecration on 6 just doesn't help you do anything with his hand.
And these incredible amount of hits into Ziliax do nothing in terms of the heal because Jason's at 30. Oh, now Finley as well.
Feels like a key card in the matchup to me. If you can just draw twice as many cards of your opponent, 1 time in 3.
So I wonder if it's just like Finley, Blessing of Kings, go face.
I mean, you're not making dudes ever. You're not playing any of the other cards apart from Blessing King. I think you just play the Finley and see what you get. But...
Whoa.
Okay.
Okay, so what this achieves is getting rid of the Sylvanas at the expense of Leroy.
Yep.
But he can do that because Jason wants to play the Tyrion.
Yes.
And I know it's safe. So he sacrifices the Leroy. And honestly, although he could play aggressive, with TechnoGoose on 29, that Leroy was going to be a while before it was going to push any kind of lethal damage. So I actually like this.
And he just upgrades the hero power.
Yeah. Funnily enough, he did not go for the Warlock hero power. He went for the Paladin improved, which with a low... Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the Warlock was almost a snap pick, I must admit, but this is relentless.
I guess in the mirror match, your opponent's draws on average are just as bad as yours. So, like, if for example, if you tap into a 1-drop, well, it's still not good.
And it's very mana intensive as well.
Yeah, whereas if you can just make 2 1/1s every single turn for the rest of the game,
which is very efficient.
yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, you'd rather make an extra 1/1 than draw an extra 1/1, I guess.
I mean, in a roundabout way.
Yeah. It's interesting. Let's see how that works out for him.
And they're both minion-based decks, right? So having more dudes on board consistently is worth something.
Yeah. Oh, a decision has appeared. Because jamming Tyrion just looked right, but now there's a reasonable chance of...
Oh, he can't play Rag with a 1/1 on the board. He has to just Tyrion. He knows Tyrion dies,
Yeah,
but he gains the weapon, the board is cleared, and kind of regardless of what TechnoGoose plays, Rag is almost always good. He's playing it! I'm baffled. What if he just... Okay.
I wasn't... You talked me round. Remind me not to do that. But yeah, no, you talked me round quite...
I feel like this only just gets worse though, right? Because now, if he plays Tyrion, Tyrion still gets dead.
But if
I
it
mean,
hits a 6/6, everything gets better. But it's only 1 in 3.
Zephyrus is a good pickup though. So Zephyrus into... Probably offers BGH. Shadow with Death, I guess, depending on what mana you're on.
Your wish is my suggestion.
Although it's only surprised us once, but those
It's
make
gonna
sense to
brawl.
me.
Does it ever offer Brawl? Oh, it offered Hex, okay. I've not seen Hex on
And
5 mana too often.
He knew it as well because he took it in a millisecond. That's the card he was going for.
Is this Rag just a god?
Well, actually, now you mention it.
Just smashing face.
You're the lore expert, not me. Is he a god?
It's not a god, no.
Thank you. Zephyrus is such a cool card. Like, just rewarded for knowing what he was going to get offered there.
Yeah, I guess so. It's weird though, right? Because isn't BGH always better there anyway?
It does feel like it, because the extra mana was no use to you, and BGH... But he doesn't draw the 8 cards. Maybe it reads that text on that one card?
Let me
Yeah, because it had Death Rattle, it offered Hex.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's just, it's weird that, like, there's maybe it's gone, okay, it's got Death Rattle, so a silence/transform effect is better. But so we get, maybe even fall into the trap of, like, Zephyrus is a very simple creature. And it's just like, oh, well, this has big stats, I'll give you something that kills it. As opposed to, oh, this has a Death Rattle, I'll give you something that removes it, even though it's just 1 Death Rattle on the board.
Let's get this right. Zephyrus is Giga Brain. We just don't understand
Right.
it properly, right?
Never Surrender procs the Never Surrender on the other side of the board.
And suddenly there is a lot going on here. So, Blessing of Kings, attack face, and kill with Rag.
If Rag's been doing what it's been doing all game, why not? You can still hit all defense matrix, it's still hero power.
But in the real world, Tyrion looks pretty good. Trade off 2 of the smaller things. Rag will get a decent shot one way or another. And I think he's probably just going to jam the Tyrion. Make sure there's just checking there's no craziness like that can happen. Because he loses if it goes wrong.
Does he?
So if Tyrion gets...
So he's not dead on,
polymorphed.
he's not dead on board, right? But if he
He's-
goes face, uses Blessing of Kings.
He's seen Zephyrus,
Let me think.
because it was the non-Shadow of Pain. So he's not going to get polymorphed or anything.
Put your faith in the light.
Okay, there we go.
Move quickly.
Just proccing each other's
Yeah.
Never Surrender with secrets. Rag finally decides to not hit face.
And now it's Hidden Wisdom.
Ugh. Worst draw in his deck, probably?
What, when your opponent's got 1 card and you're
That's
about to
what I
die?
mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's pretty grim.
Literally the worst draw.
Pretty rough. And we're both just staring at the board thinking, well, how do you get out of this?
Yeah, and honestly, like, I don't really rate this Paladin deck
I don't at all. I've got to admit.
And I feel like it does this very consistently of just top deck wars, which I don't think the deck's very equipped to do. Obviously, the Octosari got cleaned up without drawing cards. That would have made a massive impact of course. But that can happen, right? It's not that crazy. Or you just don't draw it.
For duty.
And that's why I prefer Jason's build personally, in that he's just gone for a bit of more standard curve, as in if you're building a deck without the card names, the curve has numbers on the left-hand side. Just looks more Hearthstone-y than necessarily picking the best cards.
Yeah. Ooh. Wait, how much damage is that?
Depends.
It's lethal, isn't it? Feral Blast and Blast of Kings. Swing.
He doesn't know the secret. Does that matter?
Has Get Down not been played yet?
I don't think so.
On Noble Sacrifice. Apologies. Well, it's worth going for, right?
Yeah,
if this is Noble Sacrifice, you still might win. And also, if it's not, you have a massive Divine Shield minion on the board. Plus, Rag still hits, and it either hits face for lethal, or it hits a minion, therefore making you safer in your following turn. So
with your 9/9 taunt.
yeah, PapaJason took the win there, and that was pretty solid. I personally am not a massive fan of the Paladin deck, or that style in itself. I'm going to just notch myself. You can tell Falk's been sat on this seat, can't you?
Yeah.
I'm going to lower my seat and there we go. I just saw I was a lot higher than you. But yes, PapaJason taking the win there, making it 2-0. And just a reminder, this is best of 5, which means that he's only 1 win away, actually, with just his Druid left to go up against, maybe all 3 of TechnoGoose's decks if he can make the comeback.
Yeah, I've missed Conquest. Phrase I never thought I was going to say, but it just turns out that it's a good way to make sure you've got good knowledge of the whole metagame.
Right.
I do understand that some people say, hey, it's not that complex. When you actually get into the game, you pick a deck, you play a deck. But overall, I think it's just a good test of, are you good at Hearthstone, which is what this is all about.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm just glad that we've had multiple formats across multiple months recently. That's super cool. I like to mix it up. But we're going to give the players just a couple of minutes to decide what they're going to queue next and how the rest of the match is going to play out. We'll be right back with some more Masters Talk. We are back here in Bucharest, Romania with the Masters Tour for Hearthstone, and we are in round number 2 and game number 3 of this series here, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this shakes out because PapaJason is just 2-0 right now, looking pretty cool to take a 3-0 sweep.
Yeah, and just the Druid left, and TechnoGoose has a mixture of decks, and Druid's good against some things and not others. When your opponent's got a mixture of decks, you're likely to get a win. As you can see, he's got the Control Warrior, where the Druid's I like it. The Shaman, well, I don't like it so much. And then the Paladin, who knows? Yeah,
I think like the Shaman's okay to bad, right? It's not an auto loss because of cards like Starfall and spell damage swipes just can decimate certain situations, depending on whether the Shaman's got refill or not. But for me, it's the fact that the Druid has game versus Warrior and also has game, in my opinion, versus that Paladin. Although you can maybe argue that Secret Highlander is a fairly aggressive deck.
This version isn't so much as well.
And also, I don't think that there aren't many Highlander decks that are that aggressive, right? Like that's the thing. Compared to Druid, if Druid gets to turn 5 or 6 with their quest procced, they can catch up to aggressive, right? They can gain the health, gain the armor, use surges to trade. PapaJason, as you can see there, is playing the King Fer. It's like minion-based Druid, not the Malagos version. But yeah, overall, just looking at this, like we saw him get a win with his Priest in game 1, pretty straightforward. And then we saw the Paladin game got a little bit funky towards the end, but he did make it through. And now just this Druid, I am feeling very confident. Or I would be if I was PapaJason.
Yeah, I'm feeling very confident. I'm definitely not losing
this
game. Yeah, I'm just a confident sort of guy.
Yeah, we're going to still hang around whether we win or lose, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Seems good. But yeah, and by no means is TechnoGoose out here. Obviously, best of 5, which means he can win with each of his decks going forward. But if he loses one more, he is out. And looking at his lineup, of course, we do have the Shaman. That is going to be, I think, the trouble. And we have the Warrior that is the Highlander Warrior, right, as well. So it's a little bit different. It's not Control Warrior that you're used to seeing, maybe a little bit more in the past. The Warrior's kind of gone all over the place with true like 2 of aggro warriors, control warriors, N'Zoth warriors, Highlander warriors of control and aggro variants. But I think that, as I mentioned before, any Highlander deck I feel is not aggressive enough to prey on the Druid's like 4-turn weakness.
Yeah, like you say, 4-turn weakness is a really good way of putting it because obviously at turn 5 then you start doing naughty things and stabilize very quickly. And the other thing with this Paladin, it doesn't really flood the board.
Right.
Like Druid doesn't like being flooded and hit in the face. This Paladin makes a threat and then Druid can sort of deal with it, and it makes a threat and it sort of gets dealt with. And Druid doesn't mind that pacing as much as here's all my stuff and I'm hitting you really hard. Druid's not a fan of that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is just the Druid can either get going or it doesn't. There's problems where if he doesn't draw Nourish, it can be a bit of an issue for the mid to late game. But the big ones really are any Ferocious Howls that are in the deck, and also the Hidden Oasis to heal, but also an early Oasis Surger. It's so great as not only a defensive tool, but a tool that's defensive and can be used to push aggression, because there's still 5 damage minions. Like, the amount of games I've played where I've just slammed a Surger and then said, if you just don't kill these in 2 turns, you're nearly dead. But let's get into game number 3 here. PapaJason on the top on the Druid with a very lightning fast mulligan. TechnoGoose going to kick it off on the Paladin. There's that 1 drop to start off with and that Snip Snap, but being on coin means you can activate Quest Proc turn 1. Then PapaJason has Wrath, has Swipe, has Howl for some early game if required. But honestly, I imagine we're going to see the full normal Druid off-curve play, and then Nourish might even just push him out the game.
TechnoGoose looking suspiciously at the Zephyrus after what it did to him last game.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to play you, but what are you going to do?
He 100% plays it this time.
Yeah, it should be some good 3 drops. Animal Companions sometimes pops up in these situations.
I don't think
He's
the
got
1-3
in hand, so
I don't think the 1-3 changes the usual empty board Zephyrus outcome on 2. Oh, it does. It gives you Inner Rage?
I think the Snip Snap might actually change things as well. Yeah, the Inner Rage, obviously, because now you can actually do damage. It's assuming that if you go on turn 1 a Thing and turn 2 a Zephyrus that you're trying to hit somebody hard, and Inner Rage does a good job of that.
Interesting. But he didn't. The frustration is it didn't offer him. It offered him an Inner Rage instead of an Animal Companion. You could argue that a 3/2 now is better than an Animal Companion next turn, but it's just weird. I don't know. Zephyrus is a weird dude.
But it doesn't know your hand, so it doesn't know about the Snip Snap.
Yeah, exactly.
It can't curve out for you. So mini victory for the Paladin. PapaJason has to use all of his mana this turn.
Kind of offset with the coin in some way. You know, he could prot the quest on turn 1, but also he's second. He's going second, so he's naturally going to be slower anyway. But this merchant is pretty sick. It just has to be killed.
Innovate a turn too late, or this game is close to being a lot different. As it is, though, TechnoGoose is going to have a chance here, and he obviously likes his matchup. I think somewhere buried in the tie breaks, the score matters.
Oh yeah, you definitely, and you just don't want to get 3-0'd.
Well,
that's just a natural human thing.
There is a thing in long Swiss tournaments where you don't mind getting. If you're going to have to play all 3 games anyway, you sometimes play your hardest one first, because if you're going to lose, you want to get a longer rest, because these are long days.
But doesn't really serve any major consequences. TechnoGoose has to win with all his decks.
Yeah, in terms
PapaJason
of
has to win with his Druid, so the matchups become very straightforward.
Yeah.
Going to be a Ferocious Howl there, just to cycle through, but most importantly, Oasis Surger in hand for PapaJason means that this guy's going to be live pretty soon. Although TechnoGoose is making a good show of it, and honestly, it's one of the best Paladin curves of this deck or archetype I've ever seen. He's drawn literally the best cards. The only thing now is a Mysterious Challenger next turn to fill it out. He had Zephyrus, he had a 1-drop, he had Snipsap onto his, or at least planned to be, onto his mech. Like, it's insane.
I mean, this to me, this Paladin deck plays out how I want Singleton decks to play out.
Right.
It's sometimes great and sometimes awful. That to me is the downside of playing a Singleton deck. What happened, not so much this time around, but in the previous metas we've had when Reno Jackson was a thing, is you could play 30 cards that did what you wanted and it didn't matter that there was only one of each.
Right.
But it matters now. You have to play some fairly iffy stuff.
This is the big question now. There's a couple of options with this Wrath being available. So there's Nourish into Wrath to kill off the Snips now. But there could always just be Oasis Surger and see what happens. It does float mana in a kind of weird way. There's Oasis Surger Innovate Wrath, which definitely wouldn't be horrible either. This is where Druid really kicks in though.
You also got to look if you've got time to do any nourishy stuff, which he feels he hasn't from this.
Right.
Just because then your next turn wins the game, if you're still alive.
So he's going to see the next card with this Wrath and then make a decision. But I imagine it is going to be the Innovate Oasis Surger.
Especially, yeah.
It's a little bit unfortunate because if it's the spell would have buffed his... oh no, Wrath would have buffed it anyway. That's what he's waiting for. To buff the health.
Yep.
Time waits for no one.
Noble Sacrifice is definitely a bit iffy for him. But he's okay.
It's more about just getting them on the board, right?
Yep.
And now the power on board is reduced down to 4, which, you know, yes, there's CMAT follow-up, yes, there's Rag follow-up, but it takes 1 turn or so for the Druid to really stabilize in health ways.
Yeah, his health isn't going up anytime soon. There's a Ragnaros in hand. This is beyond dodgy at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Because the board's going to be clear, and that's Ragnaros' favourite board. Actually, he hits face more when there's 7 minions, but apart from the no minion board.
So I imagine it's going to have to be nourished into a likely War Druid Loti. Probably going to end up having to trade into the Siamat, and that Anubis Seth Defender is pretty sick.
Yeah, wouldn't have minded a Ferocious Howl to go with it. Just to get yourself out of range, but this is fine.
The War Druid Loti does the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Because he couldn't have played both, which means that he would have took 6 damage to play a Ferocious Howl. Here comes Rag.
Yeah, he's like... Yeah, and PapaJason instantly back into the thinking position. It's like, oh, okay, this is an issue.
4 health, not looking too good. There is Kun though.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rag's dead. Kun's been played to push him up to 14. This is the problem I was talking about. Even though TechnoGoose is curved out very well, if PapaJason just removes this, then what's he even got? Like, the game just stops,
Late game
right?
decks are so greedy when they get there at the moment.
Well, Druid's just insane.
They all are, though. The decks that are designed to get to turn 10 are all nutty when you get to turn 10. But you're not wrong. I mean, Druid is also insane at turn.
Well, a lot of it is stuff like, well, N'Zoth is good, right, but you can still die from hand because you don't heal. But Druid, like, draws cards, heals, and has insane removal all together.
I'm so glad that Druid's gone out of the meta. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, I love Druid, man. I'm not complaining.
I've always liked Druid.
For no one.
We're the bad guys now, though.
That's fine.
But you like Hunter, so you're okay. You're safe.
Oasis Surger goes into the rag, clearing it off, and there's the timely hidden wisdom, as always.
At least this time it might be in danger of doing something.
I mean, at worst, it's buffed the Secret Keeper, so...
Okay, it's done something.
Yeah.
Job's a good one.
Reporting for duty.
But yeah, Hidden Oasis or whatever. I mean, I'm tempted to say it just doesn't matter what he does here.
Yeah, and
Just
this
play
is
some sensible moves.
He just stabilizes now. It's too much. There's still a Loti. There's another Anubis defender. And TechnoGoose, I don't even know what he can draw to make this even remotely possible going forward. Because now, there's not even, you know, a convenient couple of back-to-back draws that do the damage.
Yeah, Octosari into something. Into your deck, but there isn't anything in the deck.
Outside of Blessing of Kings, he's literally played all his good cards already this game. And look at that. It's just the final nail in the coffin, isn't it?
Yeah. I want to argue with you, Raven, but you keep saying things that make a lot of sense. It is
Yeah,
over.
no, yeah, it's a tough job.
PapaJason, 2-0. Popular result, and again, fighting for that America's GM slot.
Yeah, 2-0 in the Swiss as well, just to not confuse players.
So,
We've
yeah.
gone two. That's 3, Lorinda. Come
That's
on.
how best of, that's how best of 5 works.
Get
people.
your readers on. But yes, going 2-0 in Swiss, obviously when you start off a big Swiss tournament like this, you want, if there's any losses that are going to occur, you want to save them till as late as possible. So really good start there for PapaJason. I like overall his build. Again, even though Sol was not necessarily this morning when we were talking about True convinced about Druid, I think it's still very, very good and it's worth a bring. And yeah, that was just insane. Like the Priest deck, just that more Death Rattle version of Priest, or at least the Resurrect version, just kind of just stopping the game dead, which is often what it does. It's like, okay, you got really close. Now I'm going to just play all my cards and you can't hit me ever again for the rest of the game.
That was the last
it's
game
such
as
a
well.
Game. Yeah.
Like 2 of those decks just did exactly the same thing, and a coordinated lineup is what he's brought. So.
Yeah.
See how he gets on for the rest of the tournament.
Yep, seemed to look pretty good. I am sure TechnoGoose is going to be able to perform and keep up his scores as well, even after that loss. But we are done for this match. But as always, we have some coverage from some other matches coming right up. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some more Hearthstone.